You ever seen something so stupid, so needlessly dangerous, that it makes your blood boil years later? Because I have. And I wish I could tell you it was just some exaggerated internet story. But no. I lived through it. And no matter how many fires I've crawled through, how many wrecks I've cut people out of, this one sticks, because it didn't have to happen. My name's Cole. I used to be a firefighter and EMT. 15 years in the job. I've kicked through burning doors, patched up stabbings, even delivered 2 babies in the back of an ambulance. I've seen life come into this world and leave it far too early. But I'll tell you the truth, the most gut-wrenching call I ever heard over the radio happened in a gated community run by a sadistic HOA that thought appearances mattered more than human life. It started like any other night. I was covering a different shift. Not on the truck that evening. I was sitting back at Station 9, halfway through some cold spaghetti and a rerun of Rescue Me, when the call came in, elderly male. Unresponsive. Possible cardiac arrest. Address, 38 Parkstone Ridge. Gated community. No code provided. Right away. That last line set off alarm bells. I called out to the engine crew as they scrambled. Hey, anyone got a gate key for Parkstone? Lieutenant Myers just shook his head and said, we'll check the Knox Box. Thing is, that community, Parkstone Ridge, was infamous in the county. The HOA there was known for being ridiculous. Fining people for leaving garden hoses out. Mailing violations if your blinds weren't neutral colored. You get the picture. But what we didn't know then, and what would later become a citywide scandal, was that Parkstone's HOA had refused to install a Knox Box. Why? Because, according to them, it disrupted the aesthetic of the entrance wall. You want to talk about negligence? That's it right there. In Helvetica font. Printed on HOA stationery. Over the radio. I could hear the engine roll up and stop. Then silence. I leaned forward. Engine 9 to dispatch. Came Myers' voice. Steady but urgent. No Knox Box present. No response on the call button. We're initiating forced entry. The dispatcher hesitated. Copy that. Engine 9. Proceed. That's when they pulled the rebar saw off the rig. Let me explain what that is. It's a gas-powered, diamond-tipped circular saw designed to cut through concrete, steel, rebar, basically anything not made of dreams. Loud, heavy, and not fast. You could hear the thing start up like a damn chainsaw from hell. And every second it ran. Another second drained from that man's life on the other side of that stupid gate. 10 minutes. That's how long it took. 10 minutes of sparks, screaming metal, and total radio silence from the house. When they finally got through, they found him collapsed on the kitchen floor. No pulse, no breath. His wife, God, this breaks me, was right there, trying to do compressions on a man twice her size. They worked him for 20 minutes. Intubation. Epinephrine. The whole damn protocol. But it was too late. The damage was done. Later, back at the station, the crew came in silent. No jokes. No banter. Just heavy steps and stares that said it all. That night, I sat alone by the front desk, just filling in for the clerk on vacation, when a man in a pinstripe suit walked through the double doors with a face like stone and a folder under his arm. "Can I help you?" I asked. "I'm looking for the officer who responded to the Parkstone Ridge call Monday night," he said. Barely making eye contact. My gut clenched. "You're not family, are you?" I asked. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a thick white envelope, and said 7 words I'll never forget. "I represent the Parkstone Ridge Homeowners Association." That's how this real nightmare got even worse. The man in the suit didn't flinch. Didn't offer a sorry for your loss. Just dropped the envelope on the desk like a bomb. I slid it open right there, expecting, maybe, some asinine complaint letter. But it wasn't a complaint. It was a lawsuit, filed on official HOA letterhead. Sealed. Signed. Stamped. They were suing our fire department. The listed accusation? willful destruction of private property, their precious steel gate, sawed in half in an effort to save a dying man, apparently mattered more than the man himself. I stared at the envelope like it might catch fire. "You're kidding," I said. "I assure you, I am not," the lawyer said, emotionless. "My clients at the Parkstone Ridge HOA are seeking full restitution for the damaged entryway, including repainting, reinstallation, and administrative fees." "You mean the gate we had to destroy because your clients didn't install an emergency override?" He blinked slowly, like a lizard in a boardroom. "The HOA maintains that the fire department acted outside protocol. The damage was excessive." That was the moment I decided I was going to war. Not with fire. Not with death. But with the most callous group of power-tripping suburban tyrants I'd ever seen. The city's legal team was furious. So was the chief. But none of them more than the widow of the man who died. Her name was June Atwood. And after losing her husband of 47 years on a kitchen tile while the rescue team hacked through metal, she did something no one expected. She fought back. She showed up at the next city council meeting with her husband's death certificate in one hand and the gate's severed locking mechanism in the other. Plopped both right on the podium. "This," she said, holding up the twisted piece of iron, "cost my husband his life. And these people," she gestured toward a group of stone-faced HOA board members seated in the back, "are trying to sue the men who tried to save him." It went viral. Someone recorded her speech. Reddit picked it up. Then TikTok. News anchors called her a hero. A local paper dubbed the HOA the Gated Grim Reapers. Within days, our firehouse was flooded with letters, cookies, even donations from people we'd never met. But the HOA? Oh. They doubled down. They claimed June's testimony was emotional manipulation. That the gate was not to blame. That we should have waited for someone to manually open it. As if heart attacks pause for protocol. Then came the courtroom. Now, I've testified before, a lot of firefighters have. But this one? Different energy. The judge looked at us like he'd already made up his mind. And I don't blame him. The HOA's lawyer droned on for 30 minutes about architectural standards, unauthorized entry, and damaging community value. But when it was our turn, we brought pictures. Pictures of the busted gate, the saw, the timeline, the call logs, the coroner's report. And then June took the stand. I swear. When she said, "My husband's life was worth more than a paint job," you could hear half the courtroom sniffle. The judge didn't just throw out the case. He shredded it. Called it a disgrace to the spirit of emergency response. Ordered the HOA to pay for all damages, legal fees, and Mr. Atwood's full funeral service. And more than that, he hit them with something they never saw coming, a mandated infrastructure overhaul. That meant every gate, every keypad, every system in Parkstone had to be replaced or upgraded to include emergency override access. The price tag? $250,000. The HOA board looked like they'd swallowed live wasps. But the worst part wasn't the fine. It was what came next. One by one, the board members started to resign. Except one. That one? She had something else in mind. And trust me, you won't believe what she did the night she left. You'd think after being humiliated in court and ordered to pay for a man's funeral, the HOA would have learned its lesson. But that's the thing about power-hungry people in khaki blazers and name tags. They don't back down. They dig in. And at the center of it all was Lynette Caldwell, the president of the Parkstone Ridge HOA. 59 years old. Bleach blonde bob. And a face that looked like it hadn't smiled since the Reagan administration. She didn't just run the HOA, she was the HOA. People called her gatekeeper Karen behind her back. Sometimes to her face. After the lawsuit, 4 out of 5 board members resigned. But not Lynette. No. Lynette doubled down. She sent out flyers calling the fire department reckless. She called the widow a drama addict. She even petitioned the city to reconsider the emergency override law. claiming it made their gated community vulnerable to crime and urban decay. But the residents were done. Done. With the fees. With the threats. With the surveillance cameras Lynette had installed at the clubhouse to monitor dress code violations. They started organizing. Quietly. At first. Sidewalk conversations. Group chats. A few brave souls knocked on doors asking for signatures to dissolve the HOA entirely. That's not easy to do, but when you've lost someone you cared about because your community's president treated your neighborhood like Fort Knox, people stop being afraid. And Lynette? Oh. She felt it. She started unraveling. Showing up at random homes. Clipboard in hand. Accusing people of subversive behavior. She screamed at a teen for parking half an inch over a painted line. And one night, this actually happened, she showed up at a neighborhood barbecue wearing a body cam. Claiming it was for evidence collection. That was when the board finally voted to remove her. The motion passed 48-2. Lynette didn't even attend the meeting. Instead, she locked herself inside her house for 3 straight days. No one saw her. No one heard from her until the 4th day. It was the night she moved out, or was supposed to. A neighbor named Dave texted me around 10:30 p.m. "You're gonna wanna see this," he said. I jumped in my truck and rolled up to her house just in time to see the most ridiculous thing I've ever witnessed in suburban politics. There she was, Karen in her final form, standing in the front yard in a velour tracksuit, yelling at 2 poor moving guys while tossing her own lawn ornaments into the back of a minivan. Gnomes. Flamingos. A bird bath. All of it. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the paint. Bright red spray paint. Smeared across her garage door. Traders. Yes. She spelled it wrong. The siding? Scratched with what looked like a gardening rake. The front porch? Covered in broken glass. And through the big bay window. I could see it. Her living room was trashed. Furniture upturned. Holes in the drywall. TV shattered. She wasn't vandalized. She'd done it herself. Some sort of twisted, HOA-fueled meltdown. A last act of suburban vengeance. I stood there, halfway between horror and laughter, until one of the neighbors called the sheriff. When they showed up, she tried to claim it was a protest against community injustice. They took her in for a psych eval. And just like that, the Queen of Gates was dethroned. But even with Karen gone, Parkstone wasn't out of the woods yet. Because when you've built a system designed to control people instead of protect them, sometimes the damage goes deeper than one rotten leader. When they hauled Lynette, off her front lawn in handcuffs and hair curlers, the neighborhood let out a collective exhale. But I wasn't breathing easy yet. See, in the chaos of that night, while everyone was glued to the scene on her lawn, I noticed something weird. One of the moving guys had accidentally left her home office door open. Just for a second. But in that second, I saw it, 3 cardboard boxes stacked high and labeled HOA docs, private. Curiosity's a dangerous thing. Especially when you're a retired firefighter with too much time and a good memory for shady behavior. That night, something clicked. I started asking questions. Polite ones. At first, how exactly was Lynette elected? Has the HOA ever been audited? Why were fines being handed out for things not even in the bylaws? You'd be amazed how fast people open up when the tyrant's gone. Turns out, the HOA had been operating in full-on dictatorship mode for years. Lynette ran unopposed for 5 straight terms because nobody else ever saw the election flyers. Want to guess where she posted them? Behind the locked gym door. On a Wednesday. During working hours. And the fines? Oh. The fines were something else. $75 for leaving trash bins out for more than 15 minutes. $50 for using non-neutral tones for Christmas decorations. $100 for over-irrigation. AKA watering your lawn while she walked by. All that money? Supposed to go to the Community Improvement Fund. Except, no one could find a bank account for it. That's when I got serious. I contacted June, the widow who'd lost her husband thanks to the gate delay. She was still grieving. But when I told her I was looking into where all the money had gone, she looked at me like she'd just been handed a sword. Together, we got signatures. Enough to petition the county for a forensic audit of Parkstone Ridge HOA. And what we found: fraud. Straight up. Documented. Undeniable embezzlement. Over $82,000 in HOA fees had been rerouted over the last 6 years into 2 personal accounts, both tied to Lynette Caldwell and her brother, a so-called landscape consultant who hadn't touched a shovel since 2012. And the worst part? There was a memo buried deep in one of the folders from those private HOA boxes. It was a correspondence between Lynette and a former board member, the only one who hadn't resigned after the lawsuit. She'd written, "We shouldn't install the override. It's not required in our charter and it'll make the place look cheap. Besides, if someone dies, it'll be on the city for not getting in fast enough." It hit me like a punch to the gut. They knew. They made the choice. Not out of ignorance, but vanity, control, spite. That's when I knew we couldn't just fire a few board members or tweak a bylaw. The HOA had to go. So I called a meeting. This time, everyone showed up. Folding chairs filled the clubhouse. People brought receipts, letters, photos of fines taped to windshields. I was fined $150 for not trimming a hedge that didn't exist. I got a warning because my mailbox wasn't white enough. They told me my daughter's wheelchair ramp wasn't aesthetic. The anger in the room was white hot. But so was the resolve. Someone stood up and said, "Why don't we just vote to dissolve the whole damn thing?" And for the first time in Parkstone Ridge history, applause broke out at an HOA meeting. But it wouldn't be that easy. These things never are. Because just as we started planning the vote to dissolve the HOA, someone broke into the clubhouse that night and torched the documents. Literal arson, legal sabotage, and suddenly, we were in a whole new game. The next morning, I walked into the clubhouse expecting to prep for a vote. What I walked into instead was a crime scene. Charred paper, melted binders, filing cabinet drawers twisted like pretzels, smoke-stained walls. And in the center of it all, the HOA bulletin board, still smoldering. Gone were the documents, the audit requests, the signatures, everything we had gathered to bring the HOA down. Torched. The arsonist had even left a note. Just one sentence, written in thick Sharpie on a warped piece of wood nailed to the wall: "You'll regret trying to destroy order." No signature. But I didn't need one. The handwriting was shaky, looping, and unmistakably Lynette's. Was she back? Hiding? Acting through someone else? The sheriff's department sent out a team. But without cameras or intact evidence, there wasn't much they could do. It was ruled suspicious fire damage with likely electrical origin. Bull. We all knew what it was. Desperation. But fire or not, I wasn't backing down. I stood on the scorched clubhouse steps that night and told every neighbor face to face: we lost the paper, but we haven't lost the truth. This vote is still happening. We do it by the book. And this time, we record everything. So we did. We rebuilt the case. From scratch. Every fine, every invoice, every fraudulent transaction. This time we had scanned copies and cloud backups. A local news crew even came out and did a segment called "The Suburb That Fought Back." June, bless her heart, went door to door in 90-degree heat, recollecting every signature. We held the official HOA dissolution vote in the town library under full observation. Out of 187 eligible households, 174 voted yes. It wasn't just a win, it was a landslide. The HOA was officially dissolved, and the community handed over authority to an elected residents' council with transparent bylaws, no fine system, and mandatory emergency compliance. We called it the Parkstone Restoration Committee, and for once, the name fit. But what happened to Lynette? That's the kicker. A month after the vote, I got a call from the fire marshal's office. "Cole," he said, "you're not gonna believe this. They'd just investigated a code violation at a rental cabin upstate. Someone had been illegally installing surveillance equipment on trees surrounding the property. The name on the lease, Lynette Caldwell. She wasn't just hiding, she was trying to set up shop again. Somewhere new. Somewhere untouched. We forwarded the info to the county DA, and this time, with the embezzlement evidence, the fraudulent fines, and witness statements from over 40 residents, she wasn't getting away. She was arrested 2 weeks later in a hoodie and slippers, trying to board a shuttle bus out of town. Last I heard, she took a plea deal, community service, probation, restitution payments to over 30 families. And she's barred from ever serving on an HOA or civic board again. Fitting, isn't it? The woman who once fined a widow for excessively emotional lawn displays now picks up garbage on the highway under a sign that says Adopt a Street. Parkstone Ridge is quiet now. No more anonymous warnings taped to doors. No more HOA spies with clipboards. Just neighbors mowing lawns. Kids drawing chalk rainbows on sidewalks. And a community learning how to breathe again. And me, I still keep that scorched HOA notice board hanging in my garage. A reminder, not just of what we lost, but of what we stood up for.